Guys, welcome back to the Strong AF Club podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Nate Craig, joined by...
Asim Fayez.
Guys, when you're 2 weeks out from stepping onto the mat, every decision counts. How you eat, how you train, how you rest. In this episode, we're breaking down exactly how to fine-tune your performance for peak results on competition day. So this is geared more towards the competitive athlete.
Okay, I like it.
All right. So a couple questions. And by the way, these came to us from friends and viewers and whatnot. So thank you so much for keeping these questions going. We could not have this podcast without y'all.
100%. Yeah, we sent the questionnaire out to a couple of gym owners from the area. So we'll be sure to give a shout out at the end. Hopefully we don't forget.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't trust either of our memory, but we'll do our best. But anyways, let's jump into it. So the first question we got here is, how do you balance hard training with recovery during a cut and competition prep phase?
Okay. How do you
balance hard training and with recovery during a cut?
And you're not using any kind of device to monitor this, right?
No, you're not.
Okay, so if we're not using any kind of monitoring tool,
was that a hint out of Whoop?
Whoop sponsor me, come on.
My man loves some Whoop. Come on.
I'm just trying to get that Whoop. All right. How do you balance hard training? So let's reverse the order. So let's say the competition is on date X.
Okay.
We know we don't want to do anything hard depending on the type of competition. Let's just keep it to jiu-jitsu because these all grapplers that sent us these questions. 12 days out is what I would say is where the last hard training should be. The taper should start then. It should become skillful after that and recovery focused closer we get. It should be strategy, skill focused throughout, but heavy emphasis on strategy and skill focused from 12 days out. And then as we get about 5 to 7 days out, it should be just full on recovery. Just because in that delicate time frame where you're coming off that, like what we call here valley of despair, where your body's so tanked because you've done so much training volume, you're higher risk for injury, and you can't really rehab an injury in a 2-week period. So in that 12-day period, which is just shy of 2 weeks, we want to make sure that is where we're the most careful with the athlete because that's when they're the most susceptible to getting injured. So we want to allow them to rip the fatigue off, the fatigue Band-Aid off, allow them to recover so they do the super compensation slingshot back up and they peak for that moment in time.
You know what you actually taught me before? With that, while the body is resting, the mind is going insane. It wants those competitors. They want to work out. They want to roll. They want to whatever, and their body healing while their mind is just ready to go, kind of thing. Yeah. I feel like that lights a new kind of fire when it's comp day.
Dude, I had a coach. I want to say I was 26, 25, something like that. So a long time ago.
Yeah.
And before a competition, I felt really good. I wanted to go hard. I wanted to go hard in the weight room, etc. I just wanted to train hard because now your body's starting to peak. Everything's clicking. Everything feels good. And you're like, fuck, I want to go. You're on weight. Like everything's on target. Diet's dialed. And I went off plan once. And he sent me an email saying, better is not better. More is not better. Better is better. Instead of doing more shit, do what you're doing. Just do it better.
Perfect practice makes perfect kind of thing.
So I was like, okay, fine. So then finally we got closer to the comp and I'm like, man, I really want to fucking send it. I have all this pent up energy. And he said something along the lines of like, you don't get medals for what you do in the training room. You get medals for what you do in competition. It was something along those lines. But the way he said it was such a like, I was in the perfect state of mind to listen to it and hear it because I was like, fuck. All right, fine. I'll bite. I'll listen because that's not how I competed up to this point. Like I competed most of my life in almost everything I did. That's not how I approach things. So I listened. I quote unquote blue balled myself and left it for a competition day rather than popular man.
Sorry about that, viewers.
But no, I didn't. I left it for competition day instead of testing to build my confidence before in training. Before I went, I just was like, I just trusted the process and left that animal shackled. Come competition day, it's the best performances I had in my entire career. Competition after competition from age 26 to I want to say like 29 was like perfection. It was back to back, just not I want to say flawless performances, but like it's the best I've felt peaking
And that stemmed from heeding that person's advice, saying,
Oh yeah, and instead of like going for it in training, I left a little bit for the next day. I left a little bit in the tank for the next day, and I think that kind of segues into this part of the conversation, which is okay. 12 days out, you let your body taper out because at the end of the day, when we're trying to peak an athlete, it's a game of nervous system. We're playing a delicate dance with your nervous system. We're not playing a delicate dance with your skill. Like you should be skillful at the thing you're competing in, so that should go without question. You're not going to really get technically better in 12 days. You can learn some small things that might be able to tighten some bolts, but the bolts already have to be hand screwed in. So I think 12 days out, dial it in, start tapering. 5 to 7 days out, depending on the athlete and their size and gender, then that is when you start really focusing on the recovery. Bigger athletes, especially males, take a little bit longer, I find, to recover and feel fresh again. So they need a little bit longer of a taper than a female or a lighter dude. Because that mass still has to be moved by something. And it still costs to move that big size of a body.
I see.
Like Tyler's taper and my taper. By the way, for those viewers who don't know who Gigantor, Tyler Bunting that works here, he's like fucking 265-pound brown belt, absolutely jacked to the gills. He will take a lot longer to recover than I will, even if we're at the same strength level, just because his mass also is equated to that.
Right.
So now we're going beyond 12 days out.
I was about to say with that, and sorry to interrupt, you're talking a lot about kind of a couple weeks before, a couple days and stuff like that. What about, when does the competition prep typically start?
I'd say like
a couple months out?
It's like 16 weeks.
Okay.
The thing is, like, it's mentally grueling and daunting, right? I would say, depending on if it's jiu-jitsu, I'd say like 16, 12 for something very serious. For like my world's competitors, I plan their year out, a year in advance. If they sign up with me and they start with us around New Year's or right after Worlds, usually we have multi-year clients, right? So I get the opportunity to plan the entire year out. So I plan pretty far out. When we get small competitions every now and then, we kind of pull off the gas pedal just to allow for a little bit of recovery, so they're a little bit more tapered. But for the World's competitors, the main focus is Worlds. Everything else is just side quests, but we need to stay on that main mission. But if I don't have that opportunity, then I'd say 6 to 12 weeks out is ideal, especially if there's a weight cut. Like MMA guys, like I'm talking to a guy right now, Sam Kilmer. He asked me the same question literally 2 days ago. We were texting earlier today, and I told him, if you give me 16 weeks out, you'll never feel like you cut weight. Because then we can make it very fluid and very easy on his system. Versus if we do 10 weeks out, 8 weeks out, 4 weeks out.
You're not trying to cut X, like 20 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something
absolutely. Nutty. Yeah, so I would say for that. For lifting, it's going to be like 10 to 12 weeks out.
Gotcha.
Because usually the weight cut, isn't as detrimental to your performance in weightlifting than it is in grappling.
Really? I would think it's reverse.
Most would. And the main reason is the timing of the weigh-ins is usually always further in proximity for weightlifting than it is in grappling. Like say you do an IBJJF, you literally weigh in, then you walk up to the to where you're going to go compete, and then you fight. Like you're Jesus. In the bullpen. Like you go in, you bullpen, and then you go do your thing. So it could be within the hour. Whereas in lifting, it's weigh-ins the day before or the early morning of. Then there's like a 2-hour break. Then there is a rules meeting. Then there's a gear check. Then there's you warm-ups and all this stuff. And then depending on how big you are, how strong you are, usually flight gets pushed further back. So
right. Like Tyler would be waiting towards the end kind of thing.
Exactly. So the stronger lifters start at the end. Like David, although was on the lighter side, was the second strongest in the entire meet, the last one he did. So he got to pretty much chill all morning, and he was able to gain a lot of weight back. It was a fairly easy weight cut for him. Whereas in grappling, you don't always have that luxury because there's some competitions where it's weigh in, go fight. And there's others where it's like weigh in the day before, fight the next day. And that's when crazy shit can happen. We can make some big weight cuts there. So I'd say there's less variability in lifting. So for 12 days out, taper out. Before that is where you're really building that trench of fatigue because you need to elicit a response, a slingshot response. In the technical term, when you're talking about your nervous system, it's called supercompensation. The analogy would be you start off at a baseline, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can just watch my hand and follow it. You start off at a baseline, and you, by the way, squirrel brain, I forgot we didn't say shout out to this. Shout out to Sean Stoopman from Silverback or Ascend Jiu-Jitsu down the street, actually, like a couple buildings over. he surprised us with his backdrop. So no longer will you guys have to look at that boring white wall behind us.
We might have to change our thumbnail and everything too. Yeah, thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah,
and by the way, we'll do this puppy justice and hang it up right. Haven't got everything oriented yet, but
yeah, we're not exactly the handiest people, but we'll figure it out. It'll be up.
If we put both our heads together, we'll figure out how to hang that
sitting
thing.
on some boxes for box jumps, but here we are.
Hey.
So you're starting off at a baseline, right? And then as you start adding fatigue, aka more volume in training, your body starts to taper down. And remember this quote, all competitors and coaches always remember this quote, fatigue masks fitness. The more fatigue you accrue, the less you're able to express your fitness. The more your cardio is going to seem like it sucks. The more your strength's going to seem like it's not peaking. And the more fatigued you're going to be in general. Remember, the goal is not to be recovered for training. You're training. The goal is to be recovered for competition.
Ooh. Say that one more time so that sinks in.
The goal is not to be recovered for training. You are training. The goal is to be recovered for competition. Too many people fuck this up because they try to hold back in their auxiliary training so they can be as fresh as they can be in training on the mats, which makes no fucking sense because the mats is not where you develop attribute. The mats is where you express attribute and develop skill. Outside, off the mats, is where you develop those attributes to enhance the mats eventually. But when you add a new stimulus, you add new training, you add additional volume, it's going to take time for your body to eventually pay that debt back. You buy a new car, you pay a down payment. There's an initial dip in your bank account. But over time, if you're doing your job right, that money will be made back, and then you'll eventually be back in your surplus. But now you have a new car.
Yeah.
So it's the nervous system is taxed the same way a bank account is taxed, right? It's an input and output. But if you're constantly outputting or you're constantly withdrawing more than you're inputting, eventually you're going to be in debt. And if you never pay that debt back, you're fucked.
True. Then the debt collectors come.
Yes.
But no, I love that. Asim always says everything is taxed from the same bank account, your body. If you're working out 7 days a week for 4 hours and then going to jujitsu and then going whatever, and you're getting crappy sleep, it's all taxed from the same bank account. You're not going to be able to keep that kind of stuff up. And that's a perfect segue into the second question, which is, we're people, we're humans. We can't go at 100 all the time. What is the right way for a competitor to take a day off? And what does smart recovery actually look like?
What is a smart way for a competitor to take a day off? Yeah, I'm assuming we're going to stay in the realm of like competition prep.
Yes.
Taking a day off early I would only advise if it's A, planned, or B, there's a risk for injury. If there's no risk for injury and it's not planned, then don't do it.
Then don't take a day off?
No, because that's what the taper's for. You need to start deducting from the bank account and creating a line of credit, right? Like you need to be using that credit card and expending it to bring your credit score up. You need to be spending that money up front to eventually stop your spending, right? Because your recovery is going to be climbing. Your recovery ability is going to be climbing. So as you're tanking your recovery or your fatigue by adding more and more volume strategically, not just don't like shotgun approach this.
Yeah.
You're building up fatigue over time. And then once you get into what we call a valley of despair, where you're at the peak bottom, the valley of your fatigue bell, you then rip away that training volume. And that's where those rest days start coming in. And you rip out that training volume. Some of the training becomes a little bit more intense, but the volume is less. So it's more simulated to more specific of what the event's going to look like. So instead of doing like 15, 20-minute rounds, you're doing whatever the rounds is you're actually competing in, but at a much higher intensity. So it's less drilling, more actual training, like that's sport specific. And then that's where those rest days come in. And those rest days, coupled with the reduction of volume, will allow you to have more recovery capital to pay back that debt that you accrued during that valley of despair. Now you have that super compensation effect where your body slingshots past neutral, and for a moment in time, you have peaked. And you're able to maintain that peak for a period of time, and it's different for everybody. Let's just say it's a couple days, like 4 or 5 days, you maintain a peak. Some people, it's like a week. But you maintain that peak performance where everything is lined up, your strength is good, your cardio feels amazing, your joints and everything feels good, and more importantly, your mind is clear. So I would say for competitors, all things equal, if you're at risk for an injury or it's planned, take a rest day. Or remember, like you said, all things are taxed from the same bank account, all stress specifically. If there's something happening in your life outside of training that is eliciting more fatigue, more stress, work, school, kids, illness, then taking time off to allow you to come back to training sooner is better. So, for example, say you get sick, which is better. You get sick and you're in the middle of your training prep and you just keep training because you just need to get your reps in. Listen, you're not going to get that much fucking better in a 16-week prep, right?
Right.
All you're doing is taking all the work that you did months of leading up to that and then turning it into a force multiplier, going from a sledgehammer to a glass breaker for the competition day. But the force, the material still had to have been there. So you're not going to get that much better in those 16 weeks. If you get sick in the middle of it, it is way smarter to take a few days off to allow the sickness to roll over. So when you're back in the training room, you're getting more meaningful training.
Rather than keep digging a hole and then now you're a week back because you didn't know how to chill.
And because it deducts from the same bank account, that plus the volume you're trying to force, aka forcing a square into a triangle, is going to elicit an even deeper value of despair response that it's going to be hard for your body to actually rebound back and have peak performance by the end of that taper. So you want to be careful with how much fatigue you accrue, and each person is different, and it depends heavily on your fitness level. If you're someone who's out of shape, you cannot accrue that much fatigue before your body shuts down. You need to be in shape, and being sick reduces your fitness momentarily. So you want to make sure if you get sick, that's when you take a rest day. If it's planned, stick to it. If you're at risk for injury or you did get injured, rest. Yes, there's always something you can do, but competition in jiu-jitsu, lifting, whatever the sport is, if it's a physical sport, it's not just physical, it's also mental. So while your body's resting, that doesn't mean your mind has to be resting. You could be studying, watching tape, and working through the mental reps because that matters. Visualization, I am a monster believer in for visualization in all things. Because the more you can visually walk yourself through step by step of what the task is going to be, the more confident you are in doing it. If you can't even explain the sequence of what you're trying to do in your head and then eventually to someone, you don't truly understand it. You're just kind of doing the thing. Maybe that is a time when you're resting to improve on that skill. Because once you then take it back onto the mats and or into the weight room, you're more confident because you know exactly what needs to be happening at all times because you can articulate it.
And I think it was a couple episodes back you coined a term. I don't know if you made it up, but it was mental diet. And so when you were talking about, hey, you're sick, you got to take a couple days off. Don't dig yourself that hole kind of thing. Watch film, do that kind of stuff. Keep that mental diet healthy and smart. Try to reduce that stress while you're not able to relieve it necessarily physically. And by the way, before we jump into questions, this whole time I've visualized competition, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, as you're Bill Gates and you work your way, you pretty much work yourself to the point where you're homeless. Because it's all attached on the same bank account. Tracking. And then you take that time to recover or whatever, and that kind of slingshots you to become Jeff Bezos.
Yes. Okay, for most of you who ask this question are all business owners. I'll give you a good business example. You start your gym, you start your academy. Okay. It's just you. You have no employees yet. You just have maybe some like blue belts or purple belts that are kind of helping you. But you really don't have a staff. You don't have an infrastructure. And as homie Nakipon put me on game, you don't have an SOP. Shit's going to be stressful. You just jumped in a deep end and you thought you knew how to swim. But you read the books. Now you actually have to go do it.
Yeah.
And there's sharks in the water. And you still got to stay calm.
I forgot to read that page.
Exactly, right? And now the waves are hitting you from different spots. So like when you first start off that academy, it's going to be stressful at first because you're like, fuck, I'm doing all the work. And you are doing all the work. You're wearing all the hats. And you're trying to be competent in all the hats. But eventually over time, you accrue more and more employees, which then puts a strain financially on you to then take yourself out of it to reap the benefits. Because now those employees are able to bring up the workload, right? Because they create an initial deficit, but through that deficit becomes better input, hopefully if you choose the right people. And now you're able to be at a level that you couldn't have been without that. That's training.
Yeah.
You have to elicit that volume response. You have to elicit that fatigue response for you to then slingshot past where you were. Because if it doesn't disrupt homeostasis, if it's not enough volume to disrupt where your body is, it's not going to change or challenge your body. If it doesn't challenge it, it won't change it.
Okay. Well, ooh.
Like building a sword.
Or building up your back.
Exactly.
So, actually, this is another perfect segue. Man, we're on a roll. So you're just saying you really have to, increase that volume, work yourself kind of thing, push that fatigue. But how can you identify signs of excessive training and fatigue? We've tapped on this a little bit before in a very early episode, but as a refresher to the viewers, what are some kind of telltale signs? Hey, you might need to pump the brakes.
Motivation. Especially if there's competition on the horizon and you're in the training cycle. It's easy to be. There's something Sean said to me that I thought was very interesting a couple of weeks ago. Just like a side comment he was talking to me about, and we were just discussing like interpreting athletes, and he mentioned something between like determining between someone's commitment, laziness or whatever the word was. He said it more elegantly than I'm going to paraphrase it, and comparing that to, is it that or is it lack of motivation? And a lot of times it's actually lack of motivation. Sure, people are lazy, but they show up to jiu-jitsu. A lot of those people want to train, but they just don't have the motivation. I can 100% attest to that. That when I find, example, earlier today we had a world record rower in here.
Oh yeah,
and
brilliant.
Very rarely am I in the learning seat while we're in this facility, and I love when I am, but it's just rare. So we had a world record holder come in, and she
multiple world record,
multiple,
right?
Yeah, she has many world records. She's been extremely humble about it. So she showed me how to row today. And mind you, I've been rowing for like 16 years, but never learned at this technical of a level. And it's like, kind of slowly losing my thoughts, my train of thought.
No, you're good.
It was the way it was taught and the way she showed it. Like it made me, so for a long backstory, anyone who is training with us, I am absolutely obsessed with the ski erg and the bike and running. The rower for me, because I've done it so long, was just boring as fuck. Her showing us the way she showed us today, and then making us do it and explaining each position to like that scientific micro adjustment. Where it's like, this is shit I would have never even thought of, and even how to like put training wheels on to like force yourself to only do it correctly. Actually made it exciting.
She was explaining like, oh, have you ever seen the inside of this rowing machine, what it actually looks like, and was explaining to that kind of depth and like where your shins should be at certain positions. Even for me, I was like, I'm going to just shut up and listen to her.
100%. And that to me made it exciting. So it wasn't that I was lazy and didn't want to do the rower. I was just not motivated to do it because it was boring to me. She just made that shit exciting. It's like, I don't say legs were boring to me. They're more daunting just because, like, for what I get paid to do, 2 out of the 3 lifts are lower body lifts. Yeah. So for me, like, getting injured below the waist was like a fuck no. But the way that, like, after learning from Sean, I did a private with Knock, and then learning from Sean and drilling relentlessly with Ivan. And I'm not great at them, but the way I'm learning it makes it so fucking exciting that when I'm done training, I'm upset to leave. Yeah. I'm almost begging people to keep rolling because I want to keep trying at this. Exactly, right? I'm like that fucking kid. It's like, please don't leave. Don't go home. But like, if you can make it motivating, you keep people engaged. So I think to the question, how do you know you got someone that's fading out? Motivation. Despite trying to respark that fire, the motivation is dwindling. That means they're mentally fatiguing. Physical fatigue is fine. Perfectly fine. Most people. You
think? Really?
Yeah, most people can't overtrain. You're biologically, your body's going to protect itself. It's not going to let it go that far. Mentally, you fail mentally before you fail physically. Imagine running. You used to run fucking crazy miles every single day. You can 100% relate to this. After you break through that first barrier, how much easier does running get?
Yeah, there's a reason there's a saying, runner's high.
Exactly.
Like,
And at what mileage for you? Everyone's different, but at what mileage would you hit that?
I think I always ran a 5K every day. That's how I started my fitness journey. And I think after the first week or two of doing a 5K, it was the same distance.
But I mean, like within that 5K, was there a point where like it all of a sudden you felt like you're in cruise control?
Oh yeah. It was
at what point?
Like 3K.
So
it's just how I became a robot. I felt like I was floating.
Most people would quit at that point because they wouldn't let themselves get to that point. So that's the point I'm saying is, yes, is overtraining a thing? For sure. I have just almost never met anyone who could do it. I'm sure people can if they tried. But I think most people are going to take other measures, or life is going to force rest upon them. So they're not actually going to overtrain. Overreaching is a drastically different thing. We did cover that in another episode. So yes, I think people can overreach. I don't think people are going to overtrain. So physically, I don't think it's going to be the issue unless you're starting to get injuries back to back. Like we have one guy right now, he's popping up injuries left and right. And I think he's getting close to actually overtraining, or under recovering, I should say, because he just doesn't sleep. He's like me. We're both.
I was about to say, I bet you it's lack of sleep. That's everybody.
It's rarely what we do in the training. It's mostly what we don't do outside of training. So it's the lack of sleep is going to be the biggest one, and most people fix that, and most of these issues go away. Your tendons aren't as brittle because they're actually more recovered from the day before. Mm-hmm. But if you keep coming in with battered and torn tendons from the day before, and the day before, and the day before, it compounds eventually. Something's going to go. It's inevitable. But I think mentally is where we need to save the athlete in that 16-week period. I don't think physically, because like if you're training smart and you have good training partners, which both of which should be check boxes that we hit off, and if the training is static through the year, mm-hmm. off season, and then for that 16-week period, you ramp it up pretty hard to get them ready for competition. They should be coming in fresh into that prep, so they shouldn't have started the prep with injuries. There should be nothing lurking in the back. Okay. So they should go into the prep pretty good. So physically, I'm not worried about an athlete. It's the mental fatigue, because that's what's going to make them quit. You're tired. Most people, if you're motivated to do something, but you're physically tired, most people are still going to do it. But if you're physically ready to do it, but you're mentally just not there, most people won't do it.
I'm smiling right now for those of you watching or listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever, because what you just said, I remember doing the running, and there were some days where I'd hit that 3K and I'd be like, dude. And I'd just kind of slow down to a trot kind of thing and end up finishing. Then there's other days when I'd hit that 3K and I would still, my body would still feel that way, but my mind was there that day. And I'm just imagining Frodo taking the ring to Mordor. It's just a mission, and Frodo didn't stop, and neither am I. And kept going.
I love what motivates you.
Yeah, it's so. I'm a freaking nerd, but what you're saying is so true. The mental fatigue really is what gets people first.
100%. I have yet to see someone bail out because the fatigue physically was the thing that got them out. It's if there's any kind of waning in their resolve during a prep, it's going to be from the mind first. I don't know. I'm kind of tired today. I did a lot of training. I don't know if I should train. I think I'm going to hold back. And then they go train, and almost never have I heard someone say, damn, I wish I didn't train.
Yeah, I hated that. Or you walk out of the gym like, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like you might be tired, but...
Yeah, your active recovery techniques probably just sucked.
Yeah.
So then I guess that's a good segue into the next part, which is active recovery.
Hey.
Yes, I think instead of taking a full rest day, an active recovery day is probably better. An example of active recovery
define active recovery
is essentially, instead of racing the car every single day, and then on other days you don't want to race it because the car is kind of overheated, you just let it sit and idle. Maybe go turn it on and let the oil circulate a little bit. That's the analogy I'll give you. So instead of racing your car and training every single day on the mats, and then the days you're like kind of beat up, you just don't do shit. That's opportunity for lactic acid, that little bitch, to get in those muscles and make you feel tight as fucking stiff. Now, when you come back on that second or third day after the rest,
now it's like, oh,
you're mentally fresh, but your body feels like it's in mud. So to keep the body, because the active recovery is for your body, not for your mind. The day off from training is for the mind. The active recovery is to keep your body loose for when your mind is ready, the body's ready to meet it.
So don't keep that car in the garage. Pop the top down and cruise around the neighborhood.
100%. Your mind is the driver in the car, but the car is still your body. You still need to keep oil circulating in that, even if you don't feel like driving it today. So I would 100% advise no one take full rest days unless it's scheduled and strategic because of the way your schedule is set up, or life throws it at you. And if life threw it at you, it's probably because there's another stressor that took over that day, right? Kids, family, illness, work. So I would grease the groove. Said that on the last podcast. Grease the groove, get blood flow in there, whether it's drilling, flowing, jiu-jitsu specific, getting on the bike. That's my preference. The only reason I choose the bike over like running, and running is probably running is probably the best choice for most people. Reason being is it's free and it's outside. But I like the bike because of the lack of wear and tear on the joints because of the impact. So that's just a preference thing. But something to get the blood flow going that is low impact and easy on the joints and circulates your blood through your entire body. All we're trying to do is elevate core temperature, essentially what you would do to warm up before like a hard lift or hard training session. That dynamic warm up where you elevate your core temperature to a certain point, then you get your body moving, doing dynamic movements, and then you're ready to lift. Essentially, you just do that, then don't actually lift. You're just getting your body ready to train, and then you don't do it. That is a good example of an active recovery. More people will benefit way more from active recovery than they would from just sitting on that couch and being a potato. Because what ends up happening is your mind is ready the next day, but your body is now stiff the next day.
And I don't know about y'all, but at least I know Asim and I, if you take a rest day and you don't do anything, the ball rolls downhill whichever way you push it. And
so well
taking a day to chill, you're going to want to chill the next day and the next day and the next day.
Yes, 100%.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah, 100%.
In May, that happened to me.
I think this is where we are so similar, is we're just embodiments of momentum in any direction it goes. Sometimes it's in the wrong direction, like Magic Cards or Oblivion, or
Skyrim.
Yeah. Or it's in training, fitness, work, business, etc. It's momentum moves in any direction that you roll it, and you just got to keep rolling it in that same side. Otherwise, it'll find its own path, and sometimes it's the path you don't want.
Yes.
AKA rest day. So for me, if I take a full rest day, I know it's easy for me to take the next day as a rest day. So if I, like example, yesterday, body was pretty cooked. I had a lot of work to do and had a decision. Get work done, go for a run, and go to bed early-ish, or go train, then do the run, then get work done, go to bed super late, knowing that today was going to be a super long day of work.
And you're probably going to have to take it a little easier.
Yeah, I think today's 4 training sessions. So it's like, all right, I think I need to save a little bit in the tank to lift to another day.
Yep.
Is the quote I would say. So I chose not to train. I ran instead. Then I got my work done. I was actually able to like lay down and like rest and recover and get all the tasks I need to do. So today was actually easier. But if I didn't do that and I did take that period to go train, yeah, sure, I would have been emotionally fulfilled.
Yeah.
But today I would have been emotionally drained because of how fucking hard today would have been because I didn't prep for it yesterday.
Exactly. And with going back to kind of the ball rolling down the hill that you push it, I went on vacation. I went to Aruba for 10 days, and I just wanted to chill when I got back. I was still in Aruba. And I completely forgot where I was going with that. Aside from the fact where I think, no, it's gone. That's crazy, viewers.
Yeah, that's wild. It'd be like that sometimes. That's me on a daily basis.
Holy cow. Maybe I need to up my Z's or something.
But no, so I think from a coach's perspective, because once again, everyone that we pulled are coaches, and they're all really good coaches. I only said this to good coaches. Let me rephrase that. I sent this to specific gym owners that we partner with and work with in the area that I wanted to get their opinions on. And there's some questions that we're actually going to cover with another one of them directly together on their podcast in like a week or so.
Yeah.
Fighters Drinking Coffee, shout out. But I think a good sign of a great coach versus a good coach knows how to put a triangle into a triangle over and over again. They know how to follow the plan. But when things like this happen, how adaptable are you? How much do you truly understand the process of peaking, tapering, and overreaching, and strategic overreaching, and the valley of despair? How well do you understand that? Because if you understand it fluidly, like a dance, you can do it to any song. So now you get an athlete that has all the things lined up perfectly. For example, Cam, fucking easy as shit for me to train. He just does everything I tell him to do. He's on vacation right now. I'll say, hey, go run a 5K. He sends me a video like 2 hours later that he's running a 5K.
I know.
So it's like, but not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, if I use that as a marker of like, oh, this is what I can do, then it's like, okay, well, I put a triangle in a triangle. Sick. But what happens when life happens to him or to someone else? How adaptable, how well can I adapt this structure to that individual to still get the same end result is the marker of a great coach versus a good coach. And luckily, we're in a good area, and there's a lot of great coaches in the area that I see do this. But I think if we can start looking at it from a macro level and not just these micro snapshots of we got this competition coming up, we're going to train really hard, taper out a couple days out, last training's Monday or Wednesday, and then you go compete. If we start looking at a macro level of how do we play the game of nervous system, not just the game of fucking jiu-jitsu. Everyone's doing jiu-jitsu. So that's not going to separate you, right? We know definitively now, adding strength and conditioning and some kind of cardiovascular training and some kind of prehab stuff to improve your durability on the mats not only keeps you on the mats longer, but it also gives you that edge that puts you further ahead of someone else. Put two people together, techniques relatively similar. The person who's better conditioned, stronger, more mobile, has better athleticism is going to edge it out. You want to stack as many points in your favor to have a higher success rate of being successful. So strategically thinking about your prep for the athletes in a macro level is something that people aren't doing. So just by doing it, because jiu-jitsu is so fucking young. A lot of sports already do this. Yeah. But grappling gyms in general don't necessarily always look at the macro. Some do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying people don't. People definitely do. But those are the ones who are doing really well. I think if everyone started looking at it that way and started looking at the macro, even the ones who are doing well try to even further understand why it's happening and how to then manipulate that response so we can then get every athlete, not just a few key ones, but all of them to start seeing similar results. Now you got something completely fucking undeniable and different. Yeah. That, I think, is where the training should go. Because, like, yeah, you can train all year round, you can be good, blah, 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 but can you move the ticker in the positive direction in competition results faster by adding a little bit more off the mat to elicit a better response on the mat? Yeah, the answer is for sure. Now, who does it's the one that's going to fucking come out on top. So I think looking at it from that perspective, like, all right, 12 days out, we're going to start the taper. 2 months out, 12 weeks out, we're going to start the taper. 4 months out, this is where we're going to be doing things, et cetera, et cetera. It's having that strategic plan, but also knowing that, hey, we got this competition. We're 6 months out. The next 2 months, we're not going to train hard. The first 2 weeks into that 4 month period, 4 month out part, we're going to 14 weeks out. Math, 16 weeks out. Yes, 16 weeks out, we start ramping up to start accumulating fatigue and getting their body introduced to the type of stimulus they're going to have to deal with. And then we take them through an incubation period where we actually, not literally, but beat the shit out of their nervous system. Yep. And then have a strategic taper to then go in. Dude, I just gave the fucking golden ticket to people who are listening. If you actually listen and you follow this to what I just said and that timeline, you're going to be training.
I was about to say with some of these, maybe we give them like snippets and not the golden ticket, but too damn late.
But I mean, too damn late. Like that's the point of this podcast. I want people to get value, but it's like, dude, this is not unique to us. This is not unique. This is known knowledge. The issue is people aren't grabbing what's out there. Tim Dawson said something. It was like a random conversation. Tim Dawson, shout out. Dude's like fucking Captain America. He's built crazy. I know. But we're just talking about something just super random. I forget what it was, but it just came to my mind just now. Where he was like, the money is out there. You just got to go grab it. The information is out there. It's sitting there on the street. It's literally at your fingertips. You just got to go fucking grab it. You're wearing the wrong glasses. You don't see it because you have the wrong glasses on. Put on the other glasses. Look at it through the right lens and go snag that thing. It's there. It's free. It's right there. It's like the information we just gave you. You could literally just follow that, and you're going to have insane fucking taper results.
But you know why everybody doesn't? Because it's hard. Yes. And it takes work. And I think more so, people are really crappy listeners for the most part. Not our viewers, but people in general are just not good listeners.
They're not good listeners. And it's funny this is coming up today. I just had this conversation with one of my other clients. He's a black belt out of another academy in the area. He's actually a couple doors down from us. And I was saying maybe this would be a conversation for a different podcast too, which is I think definitely people are crappy listeners, but I think ultimately people don't know how to ask the right questions. I think ultimately the skill that most people lack is the ability to ask good questions or the right questions. I don't think there's stupid questions, and this would be controversial. I now think truly there's no stupid question. There's just
Stupid people?
stupid people asking questions. Because
There's just stupid people trying their best out here. Oh, sorry about that.
but it's like, it's how many times like we're on the fucking mats and you hear someone go, "What if this? But what if they do this?" And it's like, okay, now you're asking a line of questioning to target a specific scenario that just happened to you. That's probably not going to happen again.
Yeah.
Because it's infinite different combinations of the same shit happening. Why don't you ask the principle of what it is that is happening and how to then deconstruct it? Just like, what is the principle of tapering? I just fucking gave it to you guys. Now understanding that, you can paint whatever painting you want because now you know the order of operation to make a painting, what paintbrushes to use and when, and you start from the background, go to the foreground. But if you always paint starting with the foreground and you work to the background, it's going to fucking suck most of the time, unless you're a savant. So understanding at least the foundation principles, the heuristic, as Sean would say it, is what's going to allow you to at least have the framework, the skeletons to build off of. Now you add your own hot sauce, but steak's got to be cooked. Steak can only be cooked so many different ways.
Right.
It's the seasoning, the sauces, all the other things you add to it that is really what gives it its own personality. That's training.
God damn.
So I think, I think ultimately, it was such a funny conversation. I definitely want to have that discussion with you at some point. And on air, that'd be cool. And maybe we bring Scott and a few others in.
Yeah.
Definitely want to bring Sean in on that one. Is how do you can you first teach people how to ask better questions? And if so, how? Because I think that's what's lacking. People search search questions that elicit an acute answer. It's microscope and they zoom in to
it's the micro. Ask me macro questions.
Macro, because then you at least are on the right continent.
Yeah.
You know, like if you just look at this thing, but don't zoom out to figure out where you are in the general location, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, you see someone squat 500 pounds instead of saying, how do you do that? Yeah. Maybe reverse engineer it.
What did you do early on?
Yeah, where did you start?
Where did you start? And what were you doing then?
Right.
Not what you're doing today.
Yeah.
Don't ask David Luckett what he is doing now to get his squat to where it is now. Ask him what he did 18 years ago.
Yes.
And what he did 10 years ago and what he did 5 years ago. You need to know where the steps are so you can take those steps.
Exactly.
No one starts at the top of the mountain. Everyone looks at the top of the mountain and say, oh, I want to get up there. Go find the chairlift. Where's the chairlift? Over there. Okay, which one? This one. Okay, how long do I get on it for? You get here, and then you take this route, and then you take the next one up. It's like traversing a mountain.
Yep.
You need that guideline. You need that map. And I think people just ask the wrong questions. How do I get to the top? Fuck, go. Send it. One step at a time. Instead of, okay, So that would be a conversation for another one. I think that would be a good one because that is such an interesting subject for me right now. I've been spending way too much of my downtime with my brain thinking about that one question for like 6 weeks now, 5 weeks now.
Which question?
How can you teach someone how to ask better questions? And if so, how? Because I truly think
monkey see, monkey do. That would be my answer. Be the example for them and ask the way that you articulate things as a teacher. The way that you conduct yourself and stuff like that, your pupils will automatically follow.
Interesting.
In my mind.
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion because I'm getting a different response each time. Like what I said this morning, a shotgun from the hip kind of response was start with the direction of the answer you want it to be and work your way back. And then ask yourself the question before you ask the person. Before you raise your hand in class and be like, well, what if they put their knee here and this elbow here? Ask yourself the question first.
And then see if you can answer it yourself.
Yeah. Control that impulse and be like, let me think through this. Is the answer going to lead me back in a circle to where I am now? Or is the answer going to actually lead me to something I don't have?
There you go. Actually, that's perfect. That hit the nail on the head. Take a second before just asking it and see if you can answer the question yourself kind of thing.
100%.
Well done. And you know what? I'm going to reel us back into the last question of this podcast because we're just going to keep going. The last one is, what does performance nutrition look like in the final days before competition?
Yes. So
are they eating rice cakes? Are they eating burgers? What?
All right, I'm not gonna give away
don't give away.
I'm not giving away our sauce because we do have a very strategic weight cut that is undefeated for almost 13 years now.
Has
14
anybody
years.
ever not made weight?
No matter what the sport was, had someone not make weight.
That's impressive.
So as long as they did this, no one's missed. And this is I think the biggest cut to date that did it was, what is that? 32 pounds? 33 pounds? I'm just looking in the distance. I'm staring at the wall.
No,
but I think it's like 32, 33.
It seems like I'll be right back.
I'm doing math. You know, like that meme where the guy's like numbers going down? That was just happening right there. I was like trying to fucking math.
Scared me.
It's been a long day. Yeah, I think it's like 33 pounds.
In how long?
In a 5-week period.
Holy shit. Well, I'm getting married in September. I need to do that to me.
Yeah, it's more scale weight. But anyways, I think, we're undefeated. So general guidelines you can think about is, first, you want your nutrition to reduce inflammation. You want high hydration, because especially in sport jiu-jitsu, and we're in the summer, and most of the majors happen in summer and late fall. So a lot of the training happens through the summer. Dehydration is very fucking apparent. A lot of people get injuries because of dehydration. Their ribeye turn into beef jerky, and then it snaps easily.
And then a Slim Jim
Exactly.
just keeps getting worse.
Exactly. So it tears easily. So I think making sure your hydration is absolutely paramount. And too many people are worried about making weight by drinking too much water. It's like actually the opposite. Your body can only hold on to so much. So if you drink more water, you'll flush out the excess water, because then your body doesn't have the response of, we need to hold this, because it has an even flow of coming in. Mm-hmm. So your body's response is, we get a lot of water. We don't need to hold on to water, so we'll pee it out and sweat it out. You don't get a lot of water, and you're expelling a lot of water. Eventually, your body's going to say, we're going to hold on to what we do get, because we're going to lose a lot of it, and we don't know when the next one's coming.
So there's a little bit of oversaturation with water going on.
Yes. So people need to drink more water. So I think people need to increase hydration and improve hydration and electrolyte consumption, because in a sport like jiu-jitsu where you're just sweating like fucking crazy, especially in this time of year, you need to be hydrated. So I think that's paramount number one. Nutrition. Finding a cadence of eating that allows for you to train with the best circulation. What I find, like for me, is if I fast throughout the day and then I have maybe a light protein meal middle of the day and then I train for hours after that, my blood, my circulation, my lungs feel like it's fluid and expanding and moving quickly. Mm-hmm. But if I eat a heavy meal or something during the day,
lethargic.
Yeah, it feels like my blood is made out of mud, and I feel like I don't circulate as well. And it feels like it takes me longer to warm up. So with nutrition, making sure that not only are we reducing inflammation, but we're also getting high sources of protein, making sure we have carbs circled around our workouts and not away from our workouts. So that way the times away from the workouts can be spent focusing on getting your protein intake up and hitting your fat goals and your fiber goals. But around your workouts, lump those carbs in. Intra-workout nutrition is also very important if you can do it. If you're not a supplement person, then bail on it and just eat before and after. But just keep it light before, go heavy after. That's what I would do. And then going into the cut, leading into competition, making sure you're getting things that are antioxidant, things that are easy on your GI system is the most important thing. Things that digest easily and that don't cause GI distress. Because if you're getting things that cause GI distress, it slows GI production, processing. So now you eat something like, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to give away our secrets, but if you're on our Discord, it's for free on our Discord.
Join the Discord.
Yeah, go to links and then you'll see a whole graphic that I think Maddie made for us that maps out exactly what food items to cut out, because those food items will then cause GI distress. GI distress will then slow down digestion. So now all the red meat, steak, beef, whatever you're eating will now slowly make its way out of your gut.
And everything's taxed from the same account. And now you're worried about, you're stressed because you feel like you might shit your pants and you're about to step on the mat.
Exactly. So, and keep in mind, your intestines are really fucking long. If we took your intestines, threw it on the floor, I don't forget what the number was, but it's very fucking long. There's a lot of mass that could be inside of that. You could literally just be full of shit. And if by just reducing 5 to 7 pounds out of your gut, by just having a better fluid process from start to finish, literally, will allow you just to walk around lighter with the same energy. That is powerful. So first line of attack, after we get the hydration under control, we're hitting enough protein and we have low inflammation, high anti-inflammatory type foods in our system, is to then start removing, close to competition, things that cause GI distress. The issue is the things that cause GI distress sometimes are things that give you the most energy. So the time when you cut that out is very, very important, and we have it down to a science when we start that process. But once you start eliminating certain foods and replacing them with things that cause less GI distress, the food just goes through your system. So you still have nutrition. you still have your calories, but your weight is plummeting because you just literally have less shit in your stomach. And someone around our size, I'm 188, 190, 5'8". That's 5-6 pounds right there, gone. That's a whole weight class for some people. So just doing that will lower your numbers. Then from there comes the water manipulation, sodium manipulation, etc. But I would say hydration first, high protein, quality protein, right? Things that used to swim, run, crawl, or fly.
That's actually one of the biggest things that you taught me. Because I remember when I was bulking up, originally, I think I came in here and I was light. I was drinking 90 to 100 grams of protein per day. I weigh 190 pounds, just about. You were like, You're like, stop that. Protein shakes and all that stuff, it's supplements. It's supplementary to the actual protein you should be eating. Your protein should primarily come from something, and you said from something with a beating heart.
Yes, anything that used to have a soul. So if it swam, crawled, ran, or flew, and it came from that or component of that, fair game.
And by the way, that made a huge difference. You said you'll thank me in a couple of weeks once that really starts to take effect, and it did.
Yeah, and once you switch from supplement protein to actually consuming it, like I don't drink protein shakes. It's like break the glass type response where when I do drink a protein shake, because there's a definitive difference in my energy and focus and circulation when I eat it versus when I drink it. So I try not to dwell too much on liquid calories. But if I was cutting and I got to a point where I needed to reduce bulk, that's when I would maybe consider some liquid calories just to get less stuff in your gut. Cue in colonoscopy. Don't actually do that.
I was about to.
But it literally is very similar where you're getting less weight in your balance because you're trying to clear all that out. Think about how much fucking weight you'll lose by just not having.
Yeah, dude. If I enter a competition, I'm just gonna get colonoscopy and just drink a shit ton of water.
Yeah. So.
I'm just kidding. I'm not.
Don't give yourself a colonoscopy, please.
Not giving it to myself.
Or anyway, so I think nutrition, protein, high quality protein, water, anti-inflammatories, and low inflammation items. Keep your fiber high. Then, as you start getting closer to competition, and we start slowly reducing the things that cause GI distress and inflammation, because some of those things we do need, like steaks, etc. But we start removing some of those things as we get closer to competition. And then once we start our taper phase, we have exact days out that we start removing items and adding others to elicit that weight drop without cutting calories. Because if you had to cut water, cut calories, I'd rather just cut water, because if you cut calories, you cut energy. It's easy to rehydrate. It's hard to re-up your glycogen.
And that's part of the reason for the water saturation, because when the closer you get to competition day, you're able to just ease off hey, don't drink 10 gallons of water today.
Yeah, you can IV your hydration. You can't IV your calories. So I would say, like, worst case scenario, like you have to IV, then, I mean, it's way easier. You're going to get your liquids in, but you're not going to get your calories in. It's going to be really fucking hard for that body to recoup that. So I would say if you cannot have it happen through food and you diet down and just get lean enough and then have the last stretch be some water, that's so easy to come back from. So easy to come back from.
Dude, I learned so much on each of these episodes, even being a host. It's awesome. The more we get talking about this stuff, it's so cool. Well, guys, that's all we got for you today. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep the questions coming. And a couple shout outs. Wanted to shout out Knockupon from Beta Academy.
Yep. So Knock's questions was on here. Scott Sam Charles from DMA. Sean Stutman for not only the question, but also this cool ass
that will get
board
hung up better, hopefully, in the next episode.
Yep. Mike Pope as well. He sent us out some questions as well. Who else sent us questions today? We have a couple of people that came in. Those questions we didn't answer in this one, they'll be on the next one. But what I would like to start doing, right, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is having more coaches and gym owners reach out and like send us their questions of what we would do from our side of the fence to help better prepare their athletes, so we can start answering some of those questions to just increase the value you're able to provide to your students. Because sure, we can answer the question to an individual student, but if we can influence the person who controls all of the students, now you can pass that information down to everybody. So for us, it's in our best interest to make sure that you guys have or are equipped with all this knowledge so you can then pass that information down the pipeline. I think it only enhances the community, especially here in our area. Obviously, we have listeners all over. It's kind of wild to look at those stats.
I know.
I sometimes try not to look at it because it gets in my head. Yeah. But we want to make this podcast something that you look forward to every week because you're trying to find an answer to something that's been lurking in your head, or a question is asked that you never thought to ask, and now you just got an answer you didn't know you needed. So things like that is what we're looking for. So if you have questions, especially if it's related to strength and conditioning and nutrition, and in the niche of grappling as well, please ask, put in the comment sections, text us, DM us on Instagram. His Instagram is
NFC_.
And mine is Asim_NVBC. Reach out to us, send us those questions, because we're compiling a list, and what we want to do is start tackling these. And then if there's questions that we think another party can also answer, if not better than us, we'll bring them on and have a large discussion like the one that we're going to do next week.
Yeah. Well said.
Absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, we'll see you on the next one.